To fully enjoy Give Me Mine, start at chapter 1 and follow through to the most current video. To enhance the story, narration may be slightly different than the actual story in the book. Get your copy today and follow along. Enjoy. The Motel 6 sign blinked red, then off, then red again. As they pulled into the parking lot, Janay knew what time it was and thought about if she was really ready for what was about to happen. And she knew that he was older than her, but that didn't matter to her. And she just didn't want to be taken advantage of or end up hurt. So far, he didn't seem to fit the serial killer type. He was way too cool of a guy for that. Scottie left her in the car while he went inside to rent them a room. "Be right back," he said with his deep voice. As soon as he left the car and headed inside, she quickly began to ramble through his glove compartment. Inside, she came across a few items. A small gun that she pushed to the side. A pair of silk panties. A pack of Trojan condoms with one missing from the box. A pack of double mint gum. And a thick knot of money with the rubber band wrapped around it. The $100 bills wrapped around the thick knot caught her attention quickly, and she grabbed it and put it to her nose. Her eyes closed as she took a big whiff of the fresh, new bills. Holding the money in one hand, she used her thumb on the other hand to flip through the end of the bills in the rubber band. The newness of the bills caused them to stick together, so she dampened her fingertips with saliva from her tongue to separate them. She saw only $100 bills. 100, 200, 300, 4, 5, 6, 7, and she tried to count but couldn't keep up. All the bills were flipping through her fingertips too fast. Janay thought about how much the money would benefit her. The panties, they were cute, and she could use a piece of gum. But the only thing Janay saw now was green. And with all the money that she had in her hands right now, she could easily set up a new life for herself now that she had made the choice not to return back to school. And she didn't know if she would ever see him again, and she could definitely use the money. And she knew there wasn't much time for her to think. Jumping out of the car and running like hell with a fistful of cash sounded like a plan to her. But then she remembered the small gun and thought about the consequences she may have to face. After pulling one bill from the rubber band, she placed everything back in the glove compartment the way she had found it. The next thing was the leather armrest compartment, and that was open. She was just about to start rummaging through that when she noticed Scottie walking towards the car. She quickly folded the bill and tucked it into the side pocket of her coat along with her other stolen goods. The guilty look on her face should have been a sure giveaway that she was up to something, but he didn't suspect a thing. He parked on the side of the motel and they went to room 207. The small room smelled like a bowl of fresh fruit due to the plug-in stuck in the wall, and the air conditioner pushed out cold air. The beds were freshly made, and the painting on the wall was crooked, but it was cute. Scottie made a few calls while Janay searched the room for things that would look good in her house. She could surely use some new towels. She stood in the bathroom looking into the mirror, wondering what Scottie saw in her. Was it her beautiful eyes that Diane had given her at birth? Or was it her smooth and flawless skin? Or was it the way she made herself appear smarter than she really was by agreeing with everything that he had said? Janay wasn't ugly at all, and she knew with the right makeover she could stop traffic. Her skin was flawless. Her hair was blonde and ran down the middle of her back, but it was usually stringy and unkempt. She stood at a little more than 5 feet and barely weighed 115 pounds. She was petite, but built in all the right places. With every passing day, her ass and breasts blossomed more and more into that of a woman. 15 minutes passed and she still didn't have an answer as to what this guy saw in her. She could hear him flipping through the channels in the other room. Surprised to hear that he was watching the news, she sat beside him on the bed and acted interested. They had been in this motel room for half an hour now, and she was starting to wonder why he brought her here. Her adolescent hormones were raging, and she was ready to have him on top of her. What is he waiting for? She questioned in her mind. Together, they watched the reporter for Channel 12 News talk about how there had been 3 robberies at a downtown bank within the last 4 months without any arrests. He seemed to be in a trance while watching TV. Police are still investigating several robberies at 3 banks in Milwaukee's downtown area within the last 4 months. Officials do not know if they are connected and have no suspects in custody at this time. The reporter quickly moved to the next topic of discussion, but Janay didn't care about any of that. And she was tired of waiting. She grabbed the remote and snapped the television off. And then she reached across the bed and began to caress the bulge between his legs. He opened his legs wider so she could get a better grip. After only a few strokes through his jeans, it had doubled in size and now it was thick. It seemed to all of a sudden have a mind of his own. His hands were under her shirt and he used his fingertips to play with her nipples. Once they were hard, she jumped up from the bed, turned the lights off, and they both began to undress. Her clothes hit the floor and she slid them underneath the bed. The room was completely dark, so she had to feel around until she found his hard body. And when she found it, she wasted no time locking her lips on his dick and moving her head up and down until she heard a response from him. Oh shit, girl. That's it. That's it. That's it. That's it. He gasped. And Janay responded by quickening her pace. And she felt the palm of his hand on the back of her head, but she quickly pushed it away. She didn't need his help. She was in control. Her eyes had adjusted to the darkness and her vision was clear. He turned over onto his stomach with his face firmly pressed into a pillow that he held in his hands. And she knew that she was bringing the bitch out of him when he started to squirm and moan as she ran her tongue across one of his ass cheeks. It was bringing her so much pleasure to hear how much pleasure she was giving him. Her tongue made its way from his ass all the way up the small of his back and then back down again. She did that several times. Scottie was high from the blunt that he had just smoked on the way to the motel, and he was for sure on another planet because he couldn't take it anymore. He gently pushed Janay aside, turned her over, and reached towards the floor where his jeans were. He fumbled through each of his pockets for protection. After he retrieved a condom, he let Janay do the honors. Like a pro, she opened it with her 2 front teeth and unrolled it onto Scottie. Enough time had been wasted already. She positioned herself on top of him. They both moaned together in unison as he slid inside of her. She took it slow at first. Scottie filled her perfectly. While she rode him, he breathed heavily. She twisted her hips slowly and sexy using the dance moves that Nene had taught her years ago. Side to side, then up and down, and in and out. His facial expression was hidden, but his breathing made Janay wonder if he was okay. So she asked him, "You love that shit, don't you?" "Hell fucking yeah." Oof. He replied. So she just kept moving until he let out a loud grunt. Janay moved faster while he moaned louder. Then, just like that, it was over. His stiff dick that filled her just a minute ago was now empty. As he lay collapsed on the bed in silence, Janay wondered if he was still alive. He didn't make one single peep, nor did he move. She realized that he just needed a minute or two to pull himself together after what she had just given him. She grabbed her clothes from the floor and headed to the bathroom to clean up. Janay thought it was the perfect ending to her night. And if she never saw Scottie again, at least she had gotten a delicious meal, a couple of outfits, and $100, not to mention a nice piece of ass. While he drove her home, neither one of them said a word. She wondered what he was thinking, but she couldn't bring herself to ask. He pulled up to her street and brought his car to a halt. His tires squeaked as he stepped on the brakes. It was like deja vu. It seemed like just a minute ago she was beating Precious' ass, getting suspended from school, and making that long walk home. He hit the power lock button and she heard the doors click open. "See you around," he said in a sarcastic kind of way. Janay shot him a dirty look that told him that she was pissed, but she removed herself from his presence without saying a single thing to him. She didn't even know if she should be pissed at him or what. But her feelings were mixed all over the place. Something in the back of her mind was saying, "Slam his door, girl, kick his car, break his damn window." She thought about it for 1 second. Then she remembered the gun in his glove compartment that she had seen while snooping. Her hand gently pushed the door shut, and she watched his car make its way down the dark street. She stood in the middle of the street watching until he was completely out of sight. Then she realized that it was over. She had no regrets about what had just happened. And she felt good knowing that she had made him feel good. And for that reason alone, she was certain that he'd be back. She figured it was safe to say that she had put it on him. And she smiled at the thought of that. "Now he can call me Vanilla." "I'll be that," she said.
Boy, you know you wanna put a ring on my finger. Sitting on him, make him wanna marry me.
I wanna tell you a story. Yeah. Grab a drink, pull up a seat.